everybody, welcome back to my channel. I hope you guys are all doing great today. It is kind of a cool morning here, but it's supposed to be pretty hot today. But today I wanted to talk a little bit about a balloon flower. So this is a very easy to grow and, in my personal opinion, a very beautiful and kind of underutilized perennial. I have seen it before in gardens. There's this one house not too far from my house that has a lot of balloon flower, but other than that, I don't really see it all that often. So I feel like it's worth giving it some attention. And I just want to show you this beautiful balloon flower I have blooming and how you can care for it if you decide to have it. So, like I said, or I don't know if I already said it, this is a very easy care perennial that is hardy. At least this one is hardy to zones 3 through 8. So they're very cold hardy and they can handle some pretty cold temperatures. I think I heard they're actually native to like China, Korea, and I think parts of the Russian Far East. So, and that's like the general area, like that general area, sorry. But they are very cold hardy. They can handle some pretty cold temperatures, and they produce these beautiful blooms that are kind of like a violet blue. Like, they're not typically common. Like, it gives you kind of that bluish tinge that not a lot of flowers have. And so I think they have a very important place or role if you're looking for like a bluish purple. It's not like a deep blue, but you can tell like it has like a little bit, maybe a little bit of a blue tinge in there. But yeah, so I think that is kind of a unique thing about them, is they're kind of help fulfill that desire to kind of have blue. If you're looking for blue or a bluish color, balloon flowers are a great choice. They do come in other colors. I've seen them in white, and I think they also come in pink as well. They also come in a lot of different heights. So this variety here, I believe this one is called Popstar Blue. And this one is actually a shorter variety. So this one only gets this one is not that tall. This is probably, I would say, maybe 10 inches, 10 inches tall maybe. Not more than a foot, that's for sure, but it doesn't get much bigger than, I would say, about 8 or 10 inches. But there are some, I think, that get like really tall, like several feet. So just look around. I'm sure there's a balloon flower for your taste. And so yeah, that's kind of a little bit about like their varieties and color. And as for their care, they're not too difficult, really. They're pretty hardy and low maintenance. So as for lighting, they do prefer some full sun. They do like full sun, 2-part shade. So if you have maybe like 4 to 6 hours of sun, they'd probably do fine. And if you live in a bit of a hotter climate, that would actually probably be best for them. I have heard that I have been reading that they do generally prefer coolish climates. Like, their ideal temperature range, I believe, is like 70 to 80 degrees. That being said, I have seen them perform entirely adequately in much higher temperatures. And where this one is planted, this one is in, this one's in a pretty full sun position. And we've had a pretty hot summer this year, and as you can see, seems to be doing just fine. Now, as for soil, typically, like most plants, they like well-drained. Rich is preferable. However, I think they are, again, like I said, they're pretty hardy, so I don't think they're too picky, but I would say rich soil is definitely best for them. And another thing, as I always keep saying in a lot of these videos I make about plant care, they really need good drainage. This is very important. So don't put them in an area where like you have water that pools a lot after like a heavy rainstorm or something like that, or like a really wet period, make sure you don't put them in areas where it's really, really wet. They will not like that, and they will probably rot and die. What's next? Watering. They are pretty standard watering. However, they do seem to be able to handle some drought. We've actually had a pretty dry summer, and while I did water this recently, I would say they are somewhat drought tolerant. And that is because this is something else that's rather unique about this plant, is that this has a tap root. So this will send like a deep root, kind of like a dandelion. If you've ever pulled up a dandelion root, like they have roots kind of like that, where they tap deep into the soil. And so that obviously would help with its drought tolerance. So it can deal, again, like with short droughts, but I think it prefers if you could give it like a good watering once every week, maybe every 2 weeks if it's established. Newly planted ones, I would definitely make sure that you are giving them water at least once a week, maybe every couple days, depending on the weather. So, yeah, so watering is pretty standard as far as plants go. They really need just like a good watering, maybe once a week, maybe every 2 weeks if they're established, and they'll be happy. So as for fertilizer, they don't seem to be really all that fussy. I did not feed these, and I have found this, generally speaking, with a lot of my perennials, once they're established, they don't seem to really be all that picky about fertilizer, especially if you planted them in good soil from the get-go. Like if you really amended the soil well, they really shouldn't need any fertilizer. They are not, again, like I keep saying, they're really not that picky. So if you planted them in good soil, like if you amended your soil really well, I wouldn't worry too much about fertilizing. If it looks like they're struggling, maybe, like it looks like there's a nutrient deficiency, then they might benefit from some food. But again, like I said, they're not too picky about that. So now, as for insects, they're not super prone to insects. However, I would say close to the beginning of its blooming season, I don't really have an example to show you, but they are prone to an insect called earwigs. And they're not really, like, they don't like spread any diseases or anything, but what they will do, and unfortunately I don't have any examples to show you, but like, say, take this flower for instance, they'll kind of like burrow into the bud, and as they open, they look kind of like eaten up, and they don't seem to last forever. Like, I'm not really having much of an issue with them anymore, but they kind of will eat the buds, and they don't really look all that great. They won't kill the plant, but it just doesn't look great. So what I do to kind of deal with them is I just come out at night. They're only active at night, so I actually come out at night and I will physically like shine like my phone light on them, and if I see them climbing, like I'll try and knock them off, and I'll like try and squish them. So that's what I do. I'm sure there are other ways, more efficient ways you can deal with them, but I typically deal with them that way. And like I said, they don't seem to last too long. Once they get this big, they don't seem to bug them all that much. So that's good. But just something to be aware of. If you see like kind of holes or the flowers look kind of eaten up, that's probably why. And yeah, so that's kind of as far as insects are concerned. As for diseases, I really don't see any diseases on them. They might get like some fungal diseases if you have a really wet season. We have not had a wet season. It's been really dry this summer. So that's probably not going to be an issue. But just avoid overwatering them. Only water them when you feel like they need it. And that should avoid pretty much any fungal diseases you may get with them, which don't seem to be all that prevalent. So, and as for other notes I would like to make about them, so that's kind of like the care and diseases. There are a few things I would like to talk about. So one thing, or one really important note I would like to mention is that they, like I was mentioning, they grow from a taproot. So whenever you plant them, try to find a spot where they can stay, where you feel like you won't have to transplant them. They are, like I said, this taproot is really hard to transplant. So wherever you plant them, make sure you're happy with that spot. So when you're buying them, make sure that you have a spot where you can plant them and where they can stay. They really don't like to be moved. So I would really choose kind of a spot from the get-go where you feel comfortable, where they can stay for life. And these supposedly are very long-lived. So they will live in that same spot probably for decades. So if you like undisturbed and in good care, these can live for many years. This is probably in its 3rd year in my garden. And again, it's very gorgeous, but I'm hoping to have this here for hopefully many years to come. So yeah, that's a note. And one thing I would also like to mention, little fun fact about them. If you're wondering where they got the name balloon flower, it's because of their buds. So you kind of see how they kind of look like balloons. We see this one's probably better. Like as their buds are forming, they kind of swell up like balloons. I think it's really fun. So yeah, so that's kind of where they got their name. So that's kind of it about balloon flowers. Like I said, I feel like it's not a very utilized perennial, and I feel like people should consider putting more balloon flowers in their garden. They're really fussy. They're not fussy, excuse me. They are low maintenance. They're easy to grow, and they give you so much beautiful color, and these beautiful blooms they're just so gorgeous. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, if you could please leave me a like, comment, and subscribe. I would really appreciate it, and I will see you guys in another video very soon. Thanks for watching.